Welcome to the Stash Fabrication YouTube channel. It's a sunny day in California. What we have here is my Dynojet 224X non-load cell. We plan to get a load cell for it, but we haven't had one for a long time, and actually learn a lot from not having the load cell because the way everything spools up and goes is really dependent on the tune-up and the turbocharger. So we can see very small changes in how a turbo spools up because it's not a load cell unit. So this is what we've been testing on for a long time. This is what we test all our turbos on. It's just dusty. It sits outside. Everything that's important is inside sealed containers and sealed compartments on it. What's on it is our project drag truck. So I know she looks pretty rough, and we're not shooting for any horsepower numbers, but this is what we're going to be using to be myth busting and myth testing all kinds of different ideas that are out there, as well as we want to go compete and bracket racing with it. Its name is SR71. The goal is to get the thing painted all flat black or a matte black at some point with red pinstriping on it, but the theme has been the SR71. So this is what we're going to be using to test the dyno. I haven't used the dyno in probably 2 years or so, so we need to get it tested out, make sure everything's working out should be before we let other people come and use it. So what we want to kind of start off though with, and we thought it would be a good opportunity to go over, is if you're going to your own local dyno or come in here, either way, depending on where you're at, safety checklist. Dynos are, this thing gives me more anxiety than probably anything else next to cut-off wheels. That's had some pretty extreme catastrophic failures on these things. The roller cover plate, we had to bang a big dent out of that thing when a entire back half of a transmission split off of a truck due to a U-joint failure. So I think the first thing that we're going to start with is tires. Your tire's condition is extremely important, so we'll probably go to the back of the truck. Tires are not meant to be used on a round surface. So as a dyno owner-operator, one thing you learn is the duty cycle of the tire itself on the rolling road. There are different kinds of rolling roads. This is a 24-inch diameter roll or a 24-inch diameter rolling road. Like you see on, if you watch Firepunk's YouTube channel, they have two small rollers. The smaller rollers tend to have a lower duty cycle than the single large rollers. When you get into a lot of really long distance or long duration tuning, you'll see the big 48-inch rolls. Dynojet makes a 48, as well as Superflow and Mustang Dyno all make 48-inch rolls. And then if it's even more extreme than that, you'll go to what's called a hub dyno. You can just Google hub dynos, but they're dynos that will bolt directly to the axle shaft, or the axle itself. So, because the tire is not meant to be used on a round surface, the tire will get extremely hot extremely fast. It'll get way above the temperature because this round surface will not pull heat out of the tire like a flat surface will. So tire condition, one date, the tire needs to be within 6 years old, and as far as the sidewall goes and the tread needs to be decent at a minimum. Sidewall needs to look good at a minimum. We don't want a lot of cracks. We don't want low tread. The next thing is tire pressure. We run a lot of tire pressure on the dyno. Unless you're having a spinning issue, there's no reason to not run a lot of pressure. The higher pressure reduces the amount of wrinkle in the wall, which means there's less heat put into the tire itself. These rollers will true up treads. They're extremely aggressive. They will take a hard GE F-ring tire and they will flatten it out. So it's very important how to make this. Usually when these things come apart, what they'll do is they will de-tread and fire themselves out flat. Or as a piece, the guy that runs the Superflow dyno for Northwest Dyno Circuit, he had his arm broken. When one of these came apart, actually came forward and hit him from the backside of the elbow forward and broke his arm right there. So it's really important that these are in condition. Alongside with that, they usually won't hurt the dyno itself, but they will tear your truck up. If you have an expensive truck, or at least tear out your paint job or your fenders, make sure your tires are in good shape. There's nothing more annoying or stressful as an operator if we even decide to let you run with bad tires than to have something tires go a long way. It's not hard. Borrow a friend if you don't have any, or go get some because you might need some regardless. The next thing is going to be drive lines. U-joints are critical. Make sure your U-joints are in good shape. If they're greasable, make sure they're greased. If they're non-greasable, make sure there's no clay in them. The reason that this is here, this big dent, which was a lot worse than it was because of a bad U-joint. The U-joint failed, it snapped off the front of the pinion, and then it snapped off the overdrive housing off the back of the transmission. When that happened, it dumped everything down onto the dyno, and the driveline made its way underneath the tire and the roller, exiting. A full-length driveline exited the backside of the roller at 96 miles an hour and proceeded to go about 200 feet. It actually went a bit farther. It put a big dent in the event holders sign for their place. We were lucky that no one was behind it because it for sure would have taken them out. So please check your U-joints. We will be checking them if you come use our dyno. If they're in bad condition, we will not let you rub them. It goes for just about everybody, I think. Next thing would be your transfer case if it's a 4x4, and transmission and engine mounts. The engine mounts really aren't too big of a deal. There are safeties built into the engine mounts usually that keep them from traveling too far, but if your engine mounts are either have had bolts right out of them or your engine mount has failed, that can allow the system to twist farther than it's supposed to, and that'll again cause a U-joint failure or a case failure, which will then let the driveline eject itself out of the system. Please make sure all your bolts are there. We look for that stuff, and please make sure your mounts are in good shape. You don't want split transmission mounts or splitting transmission mounts. This is an extreme environment, and when things go bad, they typically don't go bad in a kind fashion. The next thing is oil leaks. If you have oil leaks, please bring your own towels to clean them up, or at least bring towels if you think something might fail. We do have stuff to clean stuff up, but we prefer not to. As far as if it does leak, we're at diesel place. We know that most of these diesels leak. We got cardboard we can lay down to keep most of the big things off the top of the dyno. I'm not in a too picky mood about what the condition here is, but there are some shops that may be. So bring your own supplies to clean up your mess if your truck does make a mess. We deal with a lot of older stuff because the design leaks. So it's not a big deal. We do try and catch all of it before it becomes a problem. But other than that, we're good. Make sure your oil level's good. Make sure your trans fluid is good. Make sure your rear differential has oil in it, and make sure it's at the level that it should be. Having a ring and pinion seize up while this thing is, it's a inertia dyno, so the roller has inertia. So when that rear end tries to seize up, the inertia of the roller is going to continue to try and spin it, and what that will do is again, it'll shear off the pinion yoke nose, or it will break the drive line somewhere. So I think that about covers it as far as safety items go. Most dyno places have their own fire extinguisher. If you have your own fire extinguisher, don't mind you bring your own. That's great, the more the merrier. I think that about covers everything. The operator is going to handle the strapping, and they have their own base set of rules. What I've been seeing a lot now is over the brake covers. People putting covers. That was my idea because of a lot of these older trucks have rear axle leaks, and rear axle is right over the back of where the rear brakes are at. So it was kind of fun seeing other people do that. I think about it covers it up. Hopefully that's a good safety prep video to get you ready to go. One thing is, if you don't have a lockup switch for your setup, more than likely they're going to run you on horsepower only, no torque numbers, unless it's a more modern system or it has an eddy current where they can do that. In this case on ours, because it's a non-loaded, if you do not have a lockup switch where we can hold you in a gear, we're going to run you horsepower only. That's the best way to do it, and it's going to get you your best numbers. I think that is about everything. Thank you for watching the safety video. I hope it helps, and I hope a lot of you get to go to the dyno and see the numbers you want, or at least get an idea where you're at. This is Status Fabrication. Thank you for watching. Okay. Whoa!